So today's fishy job starts in the caravan. So I wired these ponds up outside here, and I made them temporary, as I did 2 years ago. And I've put everything in the caravan. I need to move the caravan now. Yeah, it's not moved for 2 years. In fact, it's not moved for about 5 years. But we've decided we're going to go on holiday, which is always a mistake when you've got fish. But never mind. So anyway, I'm going to take all this stuff out of here and I'm going to wire it up properly and do it right. I'm hoping to move these tanks, so I'm hoping to shift them to a new place. Don't know where yet, but not there. I hate them being around this apple tree. It's an absolute nightmare. But yeah, so we'll discuss how it is wired up and how it should be wired up and stuff like that. First of all, I'll start by saying this, so you can see here there's a mains lead coming in, 16 amp socket into here. This, it gets its own power supply from the shed back there, so that's plugged in there, and then also the pumps and stuff are plugged in the actual caravan. So I've moved it now, but I've had actual stuff plugged in the caravan, so it split the load, and I really like doing that. So the heaters have been powered by this, by the shed. The pumps have been powered by the caravan, and I really like having two separate power supplies to any pond. If you ever wire in a pond, I completely recommend doing that. It's a really good idea. So the idea behind it is, if you've got two separate power supplies that come from two separate fuses on your fuse board, what happens is, if for example the heater goes wrong, which it did on this pond, it'll trip out the electric, and then all of a sudden your air pumps don't work, your water pumps don't work, nothing's working. So because I had two power supplies on this pond, the heater tripped out. It did trip out the water pump as well, because it was connected to the same power supply, but it didn't trip out my air pumps, so my air pumps kept running, which is obviously something you really need in ponds with this many fish in it. It worked really well. I'm really pleased with that, and it's something I'll be always doing in the future. Every pond I'm going to put together is going to have two separate power supplies, one for your air pumps, one for your water pumps, and then if one trips out, the other one still works, and if the other, vice versa. So that is something to think about in the future. So this pond down here, I've already drained it, and yeah, I want it drained. As you can see, I mean, it's only been empty for a couple of days, and it's already full of loads of leaves and stuff like that off this apple tree, and it'll only get worse as all blossom and whatever starts falling off it. It's a really daft place to put ponds under trees like that. Absolute nightmare. And I didn't think the fish liked it. When the apple tree were dropping blossom and things like that, it really seemed to upset the fish a little bit. But there we go. And then this one we're running off the Nexus, and also this drum has never had a proper drain on it, and it's sort of been drowned in all this area with muck, and I think it's killed this tree a little bit, because that one looks like that and the other one looks like that. So hopefully this tree will come back if it allows it to dry out down there. So yeah, let's get everything moved. I must admit, I've just taken this to bits, and I thought I'd come in and say I love that everything just plugs in. So like my pump just plugs in there. Even on this one, probably a bit excessive, but like my temperature sensor just plugs into heater, thermostat, all that sort of thing. Everything just plugs in. So unplug, and this is completely detached, and throw them out at window, and we're good to go. That is a really good point, even for main ponds. I really detest these boxes. So like your little switch boxes that you get for ponds, they're no good. Don't install one, don't bother. The reason being, everything goes wrong with koi ponds at 2 o'clock in the morning. And what I mean by that is, if you've got a spare pump, a spare air pump, which a lot of people do, I do, and it's a good idea to at least have a spare air pump. What'll happen is you'll go out 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll realise that something's not running, say the air pump. And if you've got a spare air pump, you could just walk over, unplug the old one, plug in the new one, 10-minute job. If you've got one of them switch boxes, it's an hour, all of a sudden. so you're not going to do it, and then you end up trying to run extension cords and messing about. Everything on koi ponds should just plug in, so everything is just plug and play and removable just as quickly, and it makes it a lot easier to solve problems. Say if you've got a problem with a pump where it's not running right or something like that, and you can't figure out what's happening, there's a fuse blown, there's a wire broke or something somewhere. For example, if the fuse is blown to your pump that supplies your pump and you can't replace it, if it's plugged in, all you're doing is unplugging it and running an extension cable from house, plugging it in, good to go. But if it's wired in, you've got to de-wire it all of a sudden, you've got to mess about, you've got to try and put a plug on end of them bare cables, then plug it in, and all this at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just a good point. I don't understand them smart boxes. Everything should just plug into a koi pond. It's something I've learned by experience, and it's something I used to use them. I used to use the switch box. I used to like having, posh outdoor switches, even like this one here. Oh, I used to love them sort of things where you got like a big switch. In fact, I've got it in fish house, I'll show you. So when I first built the fish house, I really wanted like a posh switch box, and I really wanted everything to be like in here, and yeah, so I've got all these switches. You can't remember what does what, so you've got like, right, 1, 2, and then it's all written down in here what does. It still does it, so these still work. 1 and 2. 1 is pumps, 2 is the drum filters, 3 is the UV lights, which don't work anymore, 4 is the air pump, so on. 5 is this quarantine tank. Yeah, so I wanted this switch box, and I haven't switched them in years, because at the end of these cables there's just plugs on end where the pumps plug in, so I just generally switch it off at the plug, and then also I can switch, like if I switch number 1, there's 3 pumps on the main pond, that just turns all 3 off. Whereas if I go in there individually and switch them, I can switch 1 off or 2 off and leave 1 running. So I never use them, they're a waste of time. It was just something I was doing at the time and thought it was a good idea, and to be honest, it never got fully finished off as I envisioned it. It's just most of the stuff in here no longer works, and then stuff in here is being removed. Like this all used to control like an extractor fan, this used to dim the lights and all that, this used to control something else. It's just, over years I've just sort of abandoned it, and what still works in there is only working because it were already wired up, and I've just sort of added to it over years. So I've even wired this pond up here like that, where it's got 2 separate power supplies. So in this bucket here there's a power supply that powers, it powers pretty much everything. So that powers the drum filter, the pumps, because the pumps connect to this drum filter's controller, and it also powers the air pumps. But the heater connects to a different circuit, so the heater connects into this 16 amp socket here, which is on its own fuse, and that means that when the heater tripped the electric out, which it did because there's a little thermostat back here somewhere that ended up getting rained on. See, it shows you how much I look at the thermostat. There's a little thermostat back there that ended up getting rained on, and it tripped the electric out, and the heater stopped, but the pumps and everything kept running. That were a really good idea, and it's the same. So this boathouse here, as we call it, the boathouse, it used to have a boat in it. It used to have the pond here, and this has got 2 power supplies as well. So alright, it's a mess at the minute. I'm taking this building down, but you can switch between them with this manual transfer switch, which were a really good idea and very useful. Just as an added bit of something, I've unplugged it all, switched it all off, and I'm here like, why's the air pump still running? There's another cable just there. I forgot about this one. So yeah, unplug that one. There's where the air pump plugged in. Yeah, but at least it all kept running. Right, I'm going to put them on an extension cable now and get them back running again. So eerie ponds, aren't they, when they're quiet? When they're like, when it's always been water moving and air pumps going and all this, and then you turn it all off, it just feels so wrong. Right, let's get them on running again. Finally, I'm starting to remove things. I think a lot of things, probably mice, have been living underneath here. where the Nexus was. So that's the tank. There's the Nexus on the pallet. Yeah, you can tell something's been going off under there. But yeah, thankfully I just decided to get it stripped out before I end up with some more fish to put in this tank. Yeah, the quicker we get it out the better. So we are now a few weeks later and I haven't really done out here, but this has all been removed. This tank is still there. The caravan's gone, which is nice. And then obviously this is just running off an extension reel, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. Yeah, the water's gone a little bit murky, but I think that's because I haven't bothered plugging in the UV light that's dangerously hovering there. But I did put all the wastewater from the drum into this vat, which I'm quite pleased with, because the original sort of method was killing this tree. Although the tree may already be dead. It might come back, I don't know. But yeah, it's surprising how much mucky water comes off that. Yeah. So what I need to do today is move these fishies, and it don't look like there's many fishies in there, but there's a lot of fishies in there. They're just staying out my way. So here's the plan for moving fish. These fish out of the tank at the back there are moving into the main pond. There ain't many, there's about 20. So 20 fish going in here. It's not ideal putting more fish in here, but I do want to, right now they've all sort of gone out of the road, you can see sort of how much room there is in this tank still. When they all cluster at the window you think, wow, there's a lot of fish in there, but yeah, when they're all sort of out of the way, it's not too overstocked. But yeah, like I say, I want to drain this tank as part of this year's sort of things, but it's not going to be happening for a bit, so we need to move these fish into there. So I've got the room, you get the point. So some of these fish, the majority are moving into that tank at the back of the fish house. Some of them are going into this tank, sort of smaller ones. And then this, what I'm going to do is probably put that tank back to there and then link these two together with the drum. And this tank is going to a new home, which you'll see in a different video. So I'm just sorting the fish out. I thought it'd be alright to put in the video what I'm sort of sorting out here. The stuff like that guy there, the orange one, I'm just sort of putting in this tank. It's not that this tank there's nothing wrong with it, I'm just sort of putting these in this tank. The one in the door is, the one at the back of the fish house is a slightly better system than these. Obviously it's warmer and the fish just love it, so I'm wanting to put in fewer of the nicer fish, and there's some real potential in some of these fishes. These are, I've got a mark on his side, but still they'll fix up in that tank as well if they've got any marks on them and stuff. But yeah, there's some real potential in some of these fish, quite nice. So these are Cuttlebrook koi fry from a couple of years ago. So they're about 2 or 3 year old, I can't remember when I last got fry. But yeah, so you get a lot of the single coloured guys, which are nice fish. The single coloured ones end up being like really quite sociable, and the fish that always come to the top first. The really nice patterned ones and very good colour ones always seem to be the ones that keep out of the way. But yeah, I just thought I'd do a quick video. I'll keep putting videos on at fish when I find nice ones. Actually, there's one in here that I want to show you. It's the same age as all these guys. Just sort of remember how big these are, and I'll show you how big he is. It's difficult to fit in this net. Kind of big. And if you're like, that's a big guy, but he's big, but he's actually bent. If you look, nice fish. He'll find a home eventually. Somebody will want him. That's usually the case. Right, I'll see you in a minute. Right then, let's see if I can catch the big guy, because I want to put him in the main pond. Keep seeing him, so it's never easy to catch fish in a murky pond. Oops, I caught him. There we go. There he is. Bearing in mind all these fish are related. So all these fish came in the same spawning, apart from that one. That one's coming from another one. Oh wait. So like this guy, and this guy are brother or sister to each other. It's quite amazing, really, isn't it? There was I'd say about 15 to 20 that got like this big, but this one stuck around because he had a little bit of a mark on his side. Because he's a nuts fish, as you can tell, and he sort of perpetually always had this little mark on his side just here, which you can't see very well. But it's, I don't know, I'm going to put him in. It's always been too big really for the tanks that he's been in. This tank has been alright for it, but when he were in the tank at the back of the fish house, it's just too big. And he did this mark because where the water goes in at the back of the tank, there's like a pipe that goes there, and then the wall's there, and then there's a gap, and when they're little they like to swim around and through that gap, and obviously when they're this size they just get stuck. So he got stuck and then put that mark on his side. So yeah, well, there we go, in the main pond. Don't look quite so big in there. But yeah, decent sized fish. Realistically, I should measure him, and then obviously it'd be nice to say, oh, he weighs this much, or he's, you know, this big in size. I should do it for my own sort of personal records to know how big they were when I put them in here, but I don't like messing about with him. I hate it. I'd rather just get it over as soon as possible. So them couple of seconds for knowing how big it is that I forget anyway, it's just never sort of worth it. There you go. Hello, lad. This is my most sociable fish that I've ever had. No matter what you're doing, he'll always be there for food. You can't put him off. Right then, so the majority of fish are out of this tank, and I didn't put as many of these fish in this tank as I thought. Although for some reason there were a lot of fish out of this tank in this tank. I don't know how that works. Instead there were a net over it, they must have somehow jumped that way. I don't know. But yeah, there are a few fish that are supposed to be in this tank. Again, there's more fish in this tank than it looks, and I've not done like an amazing job of sort of, I don't know. I like all fish. I'm very difficult at picking fish, but there were some really stunning fish in there that I didn't expect. You know, I can pick fish that would win a show. I just choose not to. I don't know. I just like all fish. They're lovely to me. But yeah, so there's some. This tank of fish are the smaller ones, and then an older batch of fry that I got from Cuttlebrook that you can't see. They're sort of, there we go, working their way around. But this tank I'm going to keep. This tank's going. So somehow I need to. Obviously these two are linked together. So under here, there's a pump there, and then that sucks from there. And there's a T-junction. And it sucks from there as well. So it's going in, and then sucking from both bottom drains. So I need to disconnect this pipe from that tank, and then put a plug on the end of it and drain. Put a plug on the end of that so there's no water coming in anymore this way, or move it to this tank, and then yeah, we should be good. This could be interesting. But yeah, I'm planning on then either moving this tank against that wall, but I'll probably end up putting that tank against this wall so they've got a bigger tank to be in, and emptying this tank, not having anything in it. That's my plan. Let's go and have a look at the others. There we go. You can see what they look like in here. Yeah, you can actually see them in this pond. It's clear. But yeah, I'm hoping they grow a bit. Fish love this tank. These fish were in this tank for a long time, and I think it affected the colours a little bit. So the colours aren't amazing. I might try them on some colour food actually. That's sort of my next sort of step, to try them on some colour food to see if they'll bring out the colours, because obviously they don't get much light in here. But yeah, looking good. Some lovely fish. These are, you know, I ought to have a look really, but the 2 or 3 year old Cuttlebrook koi fry. Sort of these are a small portion of them as well, really, because I've got to the point where I could pretty much keep all 1,000 of them, because I buy 1,000 and very few die. It's pretty amazing, really. You do get the odd ones, like I showed you that one where it was bent. You get a few of them. I keep them. There's always somebody that says I've not got many fish and just want to keep a few fish, and especially one like that. It's a pretty nice fish apart from the bend in it, and it's a big fish, and kids like that sort of thing. So it always ends up being popular with kids, that one. But yeah, there we go. Let's leave these alone. I might feed them in a bit. And all the main pond fish are cheering up now. They've going over it. Apart from it, I was just not bothered about anything. There's my big girl. She's the biggest fish in here. That's one of the oldest fish in here as well. She's almost 30-year-old. Doing well. And that one. That one's about late 20s. Yeah. This guy and that one are about 6-year-old. Right then. So it's actually the next day now. There is a couple of fish in there that I can't catch, but we're going to drain the pond anyway. And this is my plan for doing it. So, this pipe here leads to the pump and that T-junction that goes to that tank. So I'm hoping if I pull this out of there, obviously a lot of water is going to come this way. But hopefully not too much runs that way from this tank, and I can put an end cap on it, and I should be able to lift it up here anyway, so it'll not be too bad. I said this, and as I'm saying it out loud, I realise it's going to be exciting times. So what I'm wanting to do is put this end cap on that pipe, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll even record it for your viewing pleasure. Right, let's get on with that. And then obviously it's going to drain this tank quite rapidly, so once it's sort of drained, I'll get the fish out of it and put them in that tank. Hence the net ready. Right, let's have a go at this. This should be interesting. See how wet through I can get. There we go, that's the rubber boot undone. So if I just pull the pipe, that went much better than I expected. Let's see what the fish are doing in the tank. Well, it's a lot easier to catch them when there's not much water in. Then you can see them. Got me a fishy. Oh, not that easy though. Apparently we swapped fish. Right, let me put the camera down and sort these fish out before they run out of water. I'll be right back. No, also, yeah, it floods the drive. It's going down there. Nice bit of waterfall. There we go, a lovely water feature all the way down the drive. There we go, drained. There's about 5 fish left, 2 black ones were the ones that I got out last. I always leave the black ones in, just can never find them. There we go, I've moved the tank from there and turned it on its side. Actually, with this type of bottom drain, you always get a lot of muck sat in the bottom there, and there would have been a lot more, because obviously I've just allowed a huge amount of water to flow through there, so it probably soaked the majority of the muck out, but yeah, there's always more muck. Right, next job, get a quick pressure wash, and then take it to its new home. Right then, I think we'll make that the end of this video. It's probably getting a bit long now. You will see what I did with this tank in the next video. It's going to get there through lawnmower power. So yeah. Yeah, the fish in here are doing quite well. But yeah, I do want to move them. they're just going to have to stop in there for 10 minutes while I sort other things out. But they'll be fine, there's plenty of water. And there's a good filter on it, so they can't complain. So yeah, if you like this video then please like it. If you want to see more videos like this and fish related videos then please feel free to subscribe. Any questions or comments then please put them down below, and I shall see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.